For the program, for the Niger Delta region, what do the people really want? I would use this program from next week into 2020 to begin to open it up really more for the voice of the people, to make their own suggestions along what they believe should be the next way forward for the Niger Delta in Nigeria, for the ethnic nationalities of the Niger Delta. Now, I believe that most elections that should be held by now have been held. Whether they be reruns, I think there is a few here and there. There is one senatorial seat that has called for a rerun in Delta State, that of Emmanuel Uduaghan, and there is another rerun in Akwa Ibom State, that of Senator Akpabio. Now, these are all Niger Delta states. I don't know about any other people's states or region rather. These are the ones that really concerns us. But quite honestly, what I have picked out of this is the fact that it really doesn't matter to the government, to the federal government, that is, at this stage, who gets a senatorial seat right now, because more or less the ruling party has the majority in the National Assembly by sheer number, and so whether APC or PDP adds an extra seat in the Senate or loses an extra seat in the Senate, it really won't have any effect on the decisions that the Senate is going to make on any topic, on any bill, on any argument that may favor or not favor the Niger Delta people. That is one. Two. The Niger Delta people must begin to realize the disadvantage that faces us today in the politics of Nigeria. Everything is very glaring. Everything is now very clear. Now, for instance, if you take the fact that Senator Akpabio ran for Senate, I'm just highlighting it as an example. When I finish, you will see what I mean, hopefully. Senator Akpabio is a Niger Delta man. Senator Akpabio is a member of APC now. He was in PDP. He was a staunch member of PDP. For whatever reasons, he went over to APC, which did not favor the Niger Delta. But here we are. Now, he ran for rerun of Senate, and he lost. He went to court. While the case was on, Senator Akpabio was appointed the Minister of the Ministry of Niger Delta. Now, therefore, what that means is that we have a Niger Delta man from Akwa Ibom who is the Minister of the Ministry of Niger Delta. Okay, so now the courts, after he has been appointed the minister, the court have called has given a judgment where he has to go for election. Now, the question we need to ask and get an answer to, because we have to find out, how does this favor the Niger Delta? If he runs for election, is he going to resign his position as a minister of the Niger Delta ministry before he runs for the election? If yes, then it means that the Ministry of Niger Delta is no longer with Akwa Ibom. It may still remain in the Niger Delta, but definitely if he resigns, it means that it may not go to Akwa Ibom, it may go to another state. Well, we will have to wait and see how that plays out. Now, if he resigns and he goes for election and he wins the election, then that means that he's going to go back to the Senate. He's not going to go back to the Ministry of Niger Delta. Now, if he doesn't win the election and he has already resigned, will he be reappointed as the Minister of the Ministry of Niger Delta, or will he be moved to another place? That we also have to wait and see. But the point I'm trying to make is that at every given time, what are the calculations that Niger Delta people make on behalf of Niger Delta politically, irrespective of party? Because I want to believe that most of our people would tell us that it doesn't matter whether they are in APC or PDP, that they are there to work for the interests of the Niger Delta people. But that is open to debate based on what we know of them. For instance, recently there was this bill that had gone through first reading. I don't know, I'm not sure if it had already gone through second reading, which was that the government has decided, or rather a senator is saying that people who propagate hate speech, and we don't know really what hate speech is, I think the courts will decide that, should be hung. I mean, this is a Nigerian from the north that is saying this. But the people today who are very critical of this government and therefore determine what is hate speech and what is not hate speech are Southerners, are Niger Delta people, are Igbo people, are Yoruba people. So basically this bill was being proposed to hang people from the south who are complaining. That is the reality. All right. So these are the questions that we must ask ourselves when the news comes up and we are eating on our dining table, and or we're eating rice, or we're drinking gari, or whatever it is that we're doing, and we hear this type of news. We have to ask ourselves, what is the position of our people? In all the people that agitated against this bill, I don't recall, I may be wrong, and if I am, I apologize now, but I don't recall any Niger Delta lawmaker saying that they are opposed to this bill. Now, where were they even when the bill had its first reading? And the other person, the one person that stood up fiercely against it is Senator Abaribe was the one that stood up against it, apart from civil society activists and human rights activists and lawyers and things like that. The people who actually are in the Senate to represent our interests against this type of special bills that are being packaged together against us did not say a word. So we as a people must begin to ask ourselves, what really is the role that we are playing in the political arena of Nigeria? And are we really prepared to play a political role in the interest of our people, from the local government chairman upward all the way up to governors and House of Representative members, senators, and state assembly members? We have to hold our our politicians accountable. We have to, it is not holding politicians accountable, it's not just holding them accountable when the federal government tells us they have given 13%, what has anybody done with 13%, that this percentage and that percentage. Now, you look at NDDC, before ever, for years, before ever, and it is on record, before Buhari came up and said that they should have a forensic audit of NDDC, I have called for it, I have written about it, I have spoken about it, from going all the way to Chief Onyema's appointment till tomorrow. They should probe the Niger Delta Development Commission. And I said, and I continue to say, that when they do that, they will be surprised to find that the people who have the highest contract running into billions at a particular time are not Niger Delta people. Not only will they not be Niger Delta people, that they will be senators. I have said this because when the budget goes, any budget goes to the Senate, especially budget to do with NDDC, Ministry of Niger Delta, amnesty program, and so on. When these budgets go to the Senate, the senators go through the budget, and the senators pick the jobs that they want in those budgets for themselves. And this is their own bargaining chip for approving the budget. And when the audit is going on, the audit should go on to the extent of how much is the federal government owing NDDC, because the federal government is owing NDDC. The oil companies are owing NDDC. Even the states are supposed to make contribution. Everybody is owing NDDC. And so the money that is claimed that goes to NDDC is only on paper. NDDC, since its creation, has never in any one budget year received the full and total amount that has been budgeted for it to the kobo. Again, if I'm wrong, I should be corrected. Now, when we look at these things as Niger Delta people, what I want to ask us is truly, let us ask ourselves, our people, it doesn't matter whether it is by rotation of alphabetical order, whether it is by rotation of any order, the Ministry of Niger Delta, the NDDC, and the amnesty programs have been set up at the times they were set up as a result of something. The NDDC was set up because there was serious agitation starting from when Kent Rewiwa was killed for the Ogoni people's rights, to the time that Ijaw youths woke up in 1998 and started demanding for resource control. And when Abacha died and Obasanjo took over and became president-elect and came to Port Harcourt here in a meeting in Government House, and later on to Douglas Asari Dokubo, so many other people, my humble self, Felix Yodolo, then plenty people were in that meeting with Obasanjo. And it is this agitation that led to NDDC. And NDDC was created for the Niger Delta region. NDDC is not a developmental agency, it's an intervention agency for the Niger Delta. The same with Ministry of Niger Delta. The Ministry of Niger Delta came about from the agitation, from the armed agitation of armed agitators in the creeks, to the time of MEND, and eventually we know them. There is no point in calling their names. And Ministry of Niger Delta was offered, amnesty was offered. So this is how these things have come about. Now, they have been created, in my opinion, and I've been saying this for years, they were created not to work. The same way Nigeria was amalgamated in 1914 not to work. In the interest of the Niger Delta region, in the interest of southern Nigeria, they were not meant to work, and that's why it has not worked. It's the same thing with the ministry, it's the same thing with amnesty. What is happening is that Niger Delta people across the Niger Delta, from Ijos to Ogoni to Ikwere to Robo to Ishekiri to everybody, we have allowed ourselves to be used against ourselves. So what we are doing is hating ourselves, holding ourselves responsible, antagonizing ourselves, fighting ourselves for the interest of the people who are oppressing us in the name of politics, in the name of one Nigeria. So today, Urobo will say Ijaw people took everything. Tomorrow, Ijaw people will say Ogoni took everything. Everybody is hating everybody. And in the meantime, the real haters are left to go scot-free. And so, because we don't speak with one voice, and because we are greedy, our people are politically and economically greedy. They go there not for you and I, but for themselves. Because if they go there for you and I, even the mere fact that we have less senators than the 3 geopolitical zones of the North alone, even in the Senate, the way that they are sharing the money that they do not deserve, there is no senator that deserves the money that they are getting. I don't know, I don't care if that senator is my twin sister, my twin brother, or my son. The amount of money the senators and the House of Representative members are getting is coming from the Niger Delta. None of them deserve it. By the work they are doing, they do not deserve it. They do not deserve clothing allowance and newspaper allowance when people have children that are running around stark naked because their parents can't even buy them or can wake up to wear. These are the realities that we in the Niger Delta must come to. Now, after the election of the past week, what we have seen in the Niger Delta, in Bayelsa, and what people have seen of the Middle Belt area have seen in Kogi State, and what they attempted to do, or actually did do in Rivers State, is what they have repeated. It is just by the grace of God that we were able to stand, and God stood with Rivers State. And Rivers State is where we are today, because we also have Governor Wike as a man that is strong in his heart and is strong in the things that that he believes in for the state. Now, having said that, we go back. I want us to go back to the fact that we have agitated for resource control from 1998. The Ijaw Youth Council. The Ogoni people have the movement of the survival of Ogoni people that unfortunately took the lives of such prominent Ogoni people, and also the fact that a lot of our youths have died in the process of this agitation. We've moved from resource control to resource ownership. We've moved from resource ownership. We have had conferences, constitutional conference, this conference, that conference, the 2014 national conference. We now constantly hear people say we will not support the Igbos to become presidents in Nigeria. So what type of country is that when you're saying that you as so from so place will never allow an Igbo man to be president of Nigeria. So if you are saying you will not allow an Igbo man to be president of Nigeria, just the same way you didn't allow a Niger Delta man to go for second tenure of president, then if you believe that the presidency is your birthright and you want to rule, you want anybody who is going to govern Nigeria to come from a particular place and a particular religion, then why don't everybody just accept that this thing is no longer working? So then you have a situation where we have constantly said that the way forward, both here, the Middle Belt, the Yoruba people, the Niger Delta people, Igbo people, have constantly said that the way forward is to restructure Nigeria. The way forward is to restructure Nigeria, to restructure the process that governs Nigeria. It is wrong, it is unfair, it is unjust. Let us restructure Nigeria. Let everybody, in the process of that restructuring, people say they don't understand. Of course you understand. When we say restructure Nigeria, we will sit down and accept Nigeria the way that it was, even as far back as before independence and post-independence, before the Civil War, where everybody controlled their own resources. That one alone is enough. But if you say you don't understand, that is what we're talking about. Now, if you say you will not agree, and that is the narrative that has been coming up, and somebody like me and Q Breaks, I have campaigned, I have stood for and believe that restructuring is the way for Nigeria. Now, today, I'm here to tell you, as I have been saying way back, that they will, the North, the people who believe that Nigeria is theirs, will not accept this country to be restructured. But that does not mean that we should not ask for it. We must be seen and heard to have asked for restructuring. So now that we have been seen and we have been heard to have asked for restructuring, and we have seen how since 2015 what has gone on, the imbalance, the injustice, the way Nigeria is run is no longer acceptable and conducive for us in the Niger Delta region. I can't speak for the Igbo people, but I can only go by their general agitation. I can't speak for Yoruba people, I can only go by their general agitation. I cannot speak for Middle Belt people, I can only go by their agitation. And looking at Niger Delta people's agitation, the one I believe in, looking at the other people's agitation, there is hardly any difference. And so, while the primary goal is not to say break up Nigeria, definitely the primary goal is to say let there be an in-house, if you like, a self-determination within Nigeria for the different region, for the different states, for the different ethnic nationalities in their states to agree how to live together and how to manage themselves. Because we have no other state. I have no other state but Rivers State, even though I have my Ijo kit and kin in Bayelsa, in Delta, in Akwa Ibom, in Edo and stuff like that.